3, 2, 1.
Hello ladies and gentlemen of the internet, it's RJ, and today we'll be taking a look at the Bandai Tamashii Nations SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Fourze Magnet States. Starting with articulation, those keen-eyed viewers of you at home can notice that the cannons and the switches are not attached to the figure. That's because they're a pain in the ass. Cannons don't really attach very well to the boxy assemblies they're supposed to sit in. They just kind of sit on the joints. They do have a hinge so you can pose them if you can actually get them in there. The turrets themselves have a ball joint. Hinge for the shoulder armor, but it's going to scuff up against these magnetic parts. All the usual joints for the arms, ball joint for the shoulder, swivel for the bicep, double hinged elbows, ball hinge for the wrists, the usual double ball joints for the body, although mine has a scratch right here. The Fourze driver is just a free-floating piece, and the handle can swivel. Pull down hips, thigh swivel, double hinged knees. The ankles are bizarre and it worries me. As you can see, there's a cut in the feet, and that's so you can get the ankle rocker to move. They move up and down, so not functionally different, but it's aesthetically very different. I don't know if I like the look of this. Toe hinge. And finally, we move on to the most bizarre piece of articulation I may have ever seen, ever. So as you can see, his head is massive. He has no neck, so I'm not sure how you're going to get movement. Bandai sure as shit did, and this is... Watch this, you're not going to see this anywhere else. You pull the entire upper assembly up. It sure is space-time. And here is, I guess you would call his neck... It's a metal coil with a ball joint at the base, and the head moves on a hinge. So if you want to turn his head, you do one of these, and there's the coil. So what I'm going to do is just have it sit straight and pretend like that piece of articulation doesn't exist because it scares me. Moving on to detail, this figure creates quite the internal conflict, because on one hand, I really like the design and the aesthetic of this form. I think the paint's applied mostly very well, but there are some very glaring flaws that knock this figure down quite significantly. For instance, right here, this very deep, very fine scratch right out of the box, and right above it there's some black stuff. I don't know where that came from, I just got the figure today. Some black splotches right underneath the head, and just molding lines everywhere. They're really bad on the cannons. But let's talk about the pros. The silver used is very nice, very glossy. Makes the figure almost look like a magnet. Speaking of magnets, they're on his forearms. They look excellent. Some right here, on his legs, and on his chest. The Fourze driver does not look good, but that's just on all of these figures. It looks like it's made out of water. The head is a glossy black. The compound eyes, once again, look excellent. Some yellow paneling on the head itself. The antennae are silver and very long and very fragile, please be careful. Cannons look nice, not a whole lot of paint variation, but they're gray, I don't think they really need it. Some detailing on the magnets, looks very nice. Black lining on the hands. More lining all throughout the back. You have these turbines on his back. Got a lot of back. We have vents all throughout. Just kidding, there's only 3 of them. The off-white for the legs, I don't know if I like it. It's supposed to be more white. I'm not sure if the paint hasn't aged very well or if it just wasn't applied correctly. Doesn't help that none of the paneling really sticks out, it's just all one shade with no shading. You have the triangle and X, not a whole lot I can say about that, pretty self-explanatory. And then you have some detailing on the feet. So like I said earlier, adore the design. I don't like the quality control issues, and the Fourze driver kind of looks like shit. Now, remember how I complained that black had very little accessories, especially hands? Take a look at all of the shit that Fourze comes with. and tell me which is the better release in that regard. First up for accessories, we have the Bonafide Christmas Miracle. It's an SH Figuarts release that actually comes with a stand. I'm not sure if this is because the figure is top-heavy because of the cannons, or if it's because of this giant magnet, but it comes with a claw, and I'm not using this for Fourze because I got him to stand on its own. Instead, he's gonna go with one of the other figures I have that didn't come with stands, that needed them. The base itself, so I don't just gloss over it, is very nice. As you can see, it's blue and red with the Magnet States switches on it. Kamen Rider Fourze Magnet States. You have these two plugs so you can insert extra arms. Then you have these so you can make the base wider. Next up, we have 6 different kinds of switches, not including the ones that are just supposed to go into the Fourze driver. We have these two, which just kind of connect together and then fall apart. We have these two, which look like they should articulate. They don't. They're stuck together. These two are just flat out stuck together. And then we have these two, which aren't really detailed, but they have these 2 little red buttons in the middle. We have this giant magnet. It's mostly gray, but it's got the red and blue on it. It's got 3 holes for pegs in it. And it also had, that's not the one. It also has these hands with cuts in it so they can actually hold the magnet properly. So what you do is you take this divot, you take this raised part, and you just kind of plug it in. Not like that, but you get what I mean. We have a set of let's do this one-on-one hands. We have 6 grasping hands of varying levels of openness. As you can see, none of these have the cuts in them, but they are very nicely detailed. They're silver with the black lining on them. They don't really look so much like gloves. They look like if somebody mutilated one of the front men of Daft Punk. And finally, we have 2 versions of what? For packaging, it's just a dull gray box with some pinstriping. We have a picture of the prototype. Instead of Masked Rider, it now says Kamen Rider Fourze Magnet States with no space. We have the show's logo. We have Toei. No waves and rocks here. Same stuff as on the front, only this time there's an arm. Couple pictures of the prototype, simple style and heroic action, lots of moon ruins. Oddly enough, no picture of the prototype on this side, but we do have the magnet colors. The kind of reflective, I call it a hollow foil Fourze. Same stuff, but upside down. And oddly enough, no Bluefin logo. For scaling, here is Fourze with some other SH Figuarts releases. As you can see, he's much bulkier than these two. Overall, while it is a flawed release, it is a very old figure. It's also a very cheap figure. Mine was about $25 shipped. And it also looks very nice, save for the small middling issues. The articulation could be better, the cannons could not suck. But it's cheap, it looks very nice. If you're a fan of this design or just a fan of Fourze in general, definitely consider adding this release to your collection. If not, I'd say even give it a chance due to how cheap it is. If you just want something to steal a stand from, I guess that works too, but you could get this set of 3 of them for about the same price.